So, a sequel to not a very good animated movie, is it good? Is that possible? Maybe? What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, the newest film for Joe Crawford and Mccann. So, 12 years after the original Puss in Boots came out, 20 plus years after Shrek came out, when, of course, Puss in Boots was introduced, we now have a sequel to Puss in Boots called The Last Wish. And this, of course, brings back Antonio Banderas as the titular of Puss in Boots, who, in the process of everything, feels invincible as he should, even though he's lost 8 of his lives. And in the process, he is basically given a chance to not die. And if he does, he dies forever. But he, of course, is chased after this, what we would consider like death incarnate or something like that. This wolf who's a bounty hunter who's chasing after him. He hangs up his cape. He goes into hiding, and he comes across this idea, or he hears about this idea called the Last Wish, which is a chance for him to grant his wish of having 9 more lives, kind of like similar to like Doctor Who or something like that. But you have to have people like Jack Horner, Big Jack Horner, and of course Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who of course come after him to take that last wish, to do whatever they need to do. And that's, of course, where Selma Hayek comes into the mix, where she plays, of course, once again, Kitty Softballs. And we are introduced to Harvey Guillén, who plays Perro, who is this lovable kind of Chihuahua dog. So, in essence, this story is about your life, or Puss in Boots' life in a nutshell, and how fragile that really is. And the idea of him trying to gain more lives to, be fearless and invincible like he once was. But as we know, because this is a story about his last life, that's not how it's going to play out. So, as we all know, there's not much you can say that hasn't already been said about this franchise. Shrek, of course, came out in 2002, I think it was, or 2001. Hugely successful. The sequel is even bigger. Think of like Austin Powers 2. We, of course, were introduced to Antonio Banderas as Puss in Boots, who is actually a famous character in a fairy tale story. And he was automatically like a character favorite. Antonio Banderas is very likable. He's very charismatic. So when they introduced him into his own movie, it was just not very good, to be fairly honest. I didn't like it. I felt like it was very rote, very boring. I felt like it was a cash grab in a lot of respects. So the fact that it never got a sequel was kind of surprising, because it was a pretty decent hit. So here we are 13 years later, and we finally got a sequel. And the first thing you gotta think is DreamWorks just kind of like, they don't know what they want to do? Do they not know what they want to say? Are they kind of just going back to the well again? And for the most part, yeah. I mean, this is a year where a lot of films are going back to the well. We're getting a new Avatar movie. We're getting a new Top Gun movie. We're getting all these sequels to, legacy movies in a lot of respects, many, many years prior. But you got to ask yourself, going into this movie that's already gotten a pretty decent, buzz of like reviews and stuff like that, is it worth watching? And you know what? Yes, it really is. This is really surprising to say, but this is a really good movie. This is a great animated movie. This is probably not as good as like Turning Red, which was very potent in what it was trying to do, but this is a movie that caught me by surprise. I heard all the good reviews about this film. I heard it was actually, an entertaining, very thought-provoking film about life and kind of the ideas that we're not invincible and stuff like that, and how we had to look upon our life and, look upon the people that we've hurt and people that we've loved and stuff like that. And it does all that. And it also, brings a character like Puss in Boots, which was more of a sideline character who didn't get really like a great, original film, really brings him into the fold and makes him like very dimensional and 3-dimensional. And he gives a lot of characterization to him, and you see the plight and the sadness, and see the joy and the, the nature of who he is and what he is, and when he's faced upon the last life of his, what is going to be his death. It's very potent in a lot of respects. And on top of that, you bring in Kitty Softpaw again, the Salma Hayek character. She's really fun. She's a great kind of foil to, of course, Puss in Boots. But she's also somebody that has a lot of history with, and you see kind of the backstory and what's going on there. And I thought that was a really well-developed story. But then you have a character played by, of course, Harvey Guillén, who plays Pero, and Pero is this dog that just wants to have friends, who is very upbeat, and he's a character that I think is actually one of the standouts of the movie, who shows the humility of what Puss in Boots and Kitty Sawpaw can be if they just work together and act as friends and act as romantic interests and stuff like that. He, once again, like I said, the standout because he can feel like he can get grating, but he never goes to like Olaf level characters or level of annoying, where he just feels like the center point of this, like the story, and this kind of way of anchoring the characters down. And I found that it was funny, but it was also enlightening and just fun and entertaining. I felt the character was just very well done. One of those characters that you think you're going to hate, but you end up loving. And then you bring in characters like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You have Ray Winstone, you have Samson, Kayo, you have Olivia Coeman, you also have Florence Pugh as Goldilocks, who start out as villains, but really once you start to kind of, you get into the layers of depth of those characters, like peeling that onion, as I always say, that came from Shrek, actually. And you see kind of like there's more dimension to these characters than them just being straight out villains. They start out one way, and then as you see the characters start to, as they start to develop the characters as the movie moves along, it starts to become more of a beautiful thing. And you can't help the fact that Florence Pugh and Olivia Coeman, Ray Winstone, and Samson Kayo are actually, the chemistry that works really well, and they're also great actors and actresses. They're also standouts in the movie. There's a lot of fun moments in it, and there's a lot of just great timing with the characters and how they place in the world. And then you have, of course, John Mulaney, who plays plays Big Jack Horner, Little Jack Horner, however you want to look at. And he's what I would call a very standard Shrek universe villain, where he's over the top and insane, and he very much fits in that Lord Farquaad, universe type of thing. But I found his character, a lot of fun. He's a good foil. He has a very Mad Max feel to him, which you'll see if you watch the movie. But there's other characters like there's like a Jiminy Cricket style character in this movie that I thought was very, very funny. That's voiced very similar to Jimmy Stewart, and there's like when they go to Mama Luna, who's played by Divine Joy Randolph. There's a lot of fun moments there. There's a lot of Shrek humor in this, but there's also a lot more depth than I was expecting. This is what, the original Shrek, but if there was a lot more humility to a character that I was not expecting to like at all. I was not expecting to like this movie, and I really did. This is probably one of my favorite animated movies of the year, just for the simple fact that it actually took the characters and actually did something with them and made them more dimensional. Yes, they're going to a similar trope, think, very MacGuffin style, kind of trajectory. But how they get there and where it's placed and how it looks and everything, it really feels like it fits, it works, and that's really nice. And then you have Wagner Moura, who plays a big bad wolf, who is that character that is very menacing, that would actually, if I had any reservations or warnings for kids, it might scare them. It is the big bad wolf, because he feels a little dark and a little brooding, and there is some like really heavy stuff with this character and with Puss in Boots and stuff like that. So be warned, there is some stuff in here that might scare kids, but I don't think it's that like nature of like super problematic. It's just, it is what it is. I think kids are a little more easygoing when it comes to that kind of stuff now, but just to be warned, if your kid's like 4 or 5 years old, they might find it a little scary. So just be careful of that. And one more thing I wanted to talk about, and it's outside like the voice work and of course the story and stuff like that. The animation style for this movie is really unique. It fits into like the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse style animation, where it feels traditional, it feels CG, but it also adds that like comic booky feel, like that pastel-y feel. They use a lot of like, Kung Fu Panda type of like really quick action. You see like lines blurry and stuff like that. It makes the movie actually much more kinetic, much more energetic, much more exciting than you would ever expect it to be. And they don't do it all the time, so they use it just enough where it feels like when the action sequences happen, you really feel immersed in it and stuff like that. And there's an action sequence which involves different layers and stuff like that I felt really worked. And on top of that, there's like a opening sequence with a big creature that I felt really worked too. So I feel like the animation style is definitely one of the most unique of this year. But like I said, it does feel very Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse meets like Shrek meets, any traditional animation. I think it is a really nice combination of all the effects and stuff like that in animated films. But it's really cool to watch. It makes it much more original style film than any type of Shrek film in the past, I guess you could say. But with that said, that's kind of where I'm going to leave my review. I've been going on for a little too long. In the end, this was a surprise of a film. This might be in my honorable mentions. I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of up in the air. I'm getting close to the end. So once I finish a couple more films, I'll definitely have my list. But if you're kind of in the reservation about this movie, if you're kind of wondering if I should take my family to go see this, 100% yes, it is definitely worth watching. It has a lot of great messages for adults, a lot of great moments for kids, and really is heartfelt and very poetic in what it's trying to do. And I really feel like, going into a third film, which I think they'll do, I hope they, continue this trajectory of just making a film with a lot of dimensional characters, and everybody's having fun. There's all great voice work, and yeah, it's a complete winner of a film for me. So with that said, that's where I'm going to leave it. That is going to be my take on Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Surprise. So there you go. But with that said, that'll do it. In the comments below, if you decide to see this movie, let me know what you think overall. But if you like this channel, awesome. Hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell. Top the files coming next. If you like the video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.